Holla.
Hey, Nance, what's going on?
What up, Bethley? Bethy? Beth?
Oh, what's up, me? I'm feeling up, Nance. What about you?
Ooh, Beth's up. I'm great. I'm awesome. I actually love fall. Fall is my favorite season.
Yes, me too. Me too.
Really? Do you think it's because we grew up in Did you grow up in New England?
I grew up in New York, in Long Island.
Well,
So it's a
huh.
thing. But October is my birthday month. And this year I'm sharing my birthday month with my daughter's wedding. Not my birthday, just my birthday month with my
Whoop, whoop.
daughter's wedding. So lots of good things going on over here.
When's your birthday so our podsters can love you on all the socials?
It's October 18th.
Oh my, that's my wedding anniversary. Nope, it's not. It was 10/21/18. So when I hear
Close.
10/18, yeah, yeah.
Close.
Wow. So you're a Scorpio?
Libra.
Oh, okay. What's that? The scales of justice?
Scales,
Oh, that's
yes.
you. That is you to a
Fine.
T. Wow.
Yep.
Wow. 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 Cool. And your new website's up and running, right?
New website's up and running. We got our Women's Business League group in action. Still
Fantastic.
looking to fill some seats if anyone's in the Mansfield, Massachusetts area,
Love
surrounding
it.
towns. Yeah, everything's good.
You want to know why I love October?
Yes,
Because it's your birthday
of course.
and because your daughter's getting married
Yep.
and because it is my Do the Thing retreat on Cape Cod.
Right.
2.5 days. 2.5 days, Beth. Think about this.
Wow.
2.5 days. You get to walk out with the actual plan for how to do the thing. In fact, I might take someone through the process and record it and put it out there because it is so powerful and it is so simple. Simple, but not easy. I think if people knew really how easy it was, they'd be like, oh my God, sign me up, sign me up, sign me up. And we combine it with private chef, yoga every day, house in the woods, guided hikes, Cape Cod National Seashore. It's crazy. It is crazy. And registration is ending very, very soon, probably like a week or two after this episode airs. So if you haven't applied yet, get in there, get in so we can get her done.
That's
Right?
right. Sounds awesome.
Want to know what it sounds like to me? Powerful.
Powerful.
Speaking of power, today's topic is when and why women give away their power.
Oh, see it all the time. Aggravating, right?
Easy peasy, right?
Mhm.
No problem. We can solve for that. We can solve that. Done.
You can.
So here's let me ask you a high level question. This is like high level, 30,000 feet. Not specific, but when in what environment do you see women giving away their power?
Ugh, gosh, in so many environments, right?
Mhm.
Definitely at home, children, spouse, family, neighbors, friends, right?
Mhm.
And of course, the workplace.
Yeah, I put a big when we were writing notes, Podsters, I put a big duh next to that because that's pretty much
Oh.
our entire platform. Yep. 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 Yep.
Well, where does that happen in the workplace, Nance?
So it happens really every day.
Mhm.
So I want to talk a little bit about some nuanced ways, small ways that women are giving away their power. And it's interesting because it's hard for me not to feel like a broken record because this is what I live, eat, and breathe. And yet, when I was doing some research for this podcast, one of the things that you and I talk about, which is how we speak and how words matter, minimizing language and undermining phrases was like number one and two ways that women give away their power at work. This is according to Forbes. So I was like, it doesn't matter how much I talk about it. We got to keep talking about it. So these are things like how you were asking a question. I just wanted to say, or I'm not sure if this is a good idea, but, and I hear just all the time, all the time, all the time. I was recently in a meeting and somebody used just as to preface their idea. Of course, it was a female. And I was like, don't do that. And I was going to pull her aside afterwards, but you got to be really careful with that stuff. Sometimes people are not really necessarily open to the feedback. But for me, it was Why are you discounting what you're saying before you're even saying it? You are apologizing for sharing your thoughts. I mean, talk about giving away your power. You're like, well, I know I don't really deserve to speak here, but I'm going to anyway, just if you'll let me. And it's bad, and we all do it a lot,
Mhm. Yeah,
right?
and going back to what you were just saying, "Do you mind if I blah, blah, blah?" Or, "Is it okay? Would that be okay with you if I da, da?" Instead of saying, "I need to do X, Y, and Z,"
Mhm. I
right?
have an idea. I have an idea.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to do this. The other thing is physical. So for those of you who are still going into an office or a meeting or a conference, getting the coffee, bringing a banana bread into the office. So I'm going to say this, and I'm going to try to say this with love. Do not bring baked goods into your office if you are a female. I didn't try that hard to say it with love. I'm going to redo that. Right here it is with love. I know that everybody wants to share and bring, you want to share and take care of people and bring in, let's say you have some cookies left over from the night before. Perfectly acceptable, provided that the men in your office are also bringing in treats and snacks for the team. When you bring in banana bread or cookies or whatever the case may be, and this was hard for me because I cook a lot, I have stuff left over, I want to bring it in. You are becoming the caretaker, and you are positioning yourself as the mother and the caretaker and the pleaser for the group. Like me. I want you to like me. That may not be why you're doing it. It could just be, listen, you got the food left over, you want to bring it in, you want to make people happy. The way it's perceived is, I want to be liked and I'm going to bring in treats so that people like me. And that will always, always, always backfire. What are your thoughts on that, Beth?
I agree. I actually just was listening to a podcast. It was Mel Robbins. We know Mel. We love,
Love.
and she's interviewing a woman whose name escapes me, but based on a some stats from Princeton, some research, she was talking about the 13 things you should do to be charismatic. And she was talking at one point, and I'm paraphrasing, that people get stuck between wanting to be liked and wanting to be respected.
Mhm.
And I definitely think that's probably a heavier female issue than male. And we want to be liked, right? And it just makes things easy, right? Because it doesn't, when someone likes you, there's less confrontation, there's less what will people think, right? Because you think you have this friendship or alliance, or they owe you something because you did something for them and you always want to be one ahead,
Mhm.
right? Like bringing the bread or doing a favor or
Mhm.
sort of thing.
Mhm. Let me ask you this. Do you think that charisma, do you think that you can become charismatic, or do you think you're born with it?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, I think there are people, who just are not going to be charismatic, and maybe they don't want to be. I don't think everybody has to be. And I think that you can learn some of the skills. It was interesting. I wish I had written all the things down. I did
Well, yeah.
that I do a lot of the things. So, as do you.
The reason why I ask, I think charisma actually would be a great future topic, is because confidence is a skill. You can learn confidence.
Yes.
I don't know how I feel about if you can learn. I would think with charisma, for me, it would be learning how to step into your unique gifts, and
Yes.
that will make you charismatic. But I think that would be a great future topic.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. All right. So I put some notes on that. I also think physically women give away their power when they hang in the back of the room, or they don't sit at the head of the table, or they don't take up space. It's the total antithesis of what we're taught as children or as young women.
Hmm.
You know, make yourself small, don't take up too much space. I mean, if you haven't seen the Amy Cuddy TED Talk yet about how your body language impacts something, can't remember the name of it. I use it in a lot of my teaching when I used to teach. I'll put a link in the show notes, but the more space you take up, the more confident you will be and the more people will respond to that. They will respond to that energy. That BDE, if you know what I'm talking about, they will respond to it. And it works. I've tried it out. I've done it. It's amazing. Anyway, any thoughts on physical at work?
Yes. And I think, again, some of these things are definitely like, okay, I feel uncomfortable in this room. I'm going to cross my arms, or I'm going to sit like this with my hands in front of my, chest and leaning on my hands, lean my chin on my hands. But like a lot of these things we've been taught are connected to modesty, right? Crossing your legs, all of these things that make us take up less space
Mm-hmm.
and not draw attention to ourselves.
Yep. 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 I totally agree. I want to get into women giving away their power at home
Mhm,
because this is big for me. So, this is big for me because sometimes I see myself doing it.
mhm.
I think my husband might disagree, but for the most part, I think for the most part, our marriage is very much a partnership, very much. I do see myself kind of taking the back seat to some things, which is fine as long as everybody's comfortable with that. So for me, you're giving away your power at home is when you're taking the back seat, letting someone else drive, and you are not comfortable with that. It could maybe it's the finances. Finances is big. Finances is big. And as we know, women oftentimes will shy away from the finances, either fear, they don't understand it, they don't want to deal with it, it's too tactical, they're too busy with other parts of the household. And many times when women don't pay attention to their finances, there's a statistic, I think it's like 70% of the time, I will check that. Something happens to their spouse or if they get divorced, they are left with a very big, unpleasant surprise. So if you are outsourcing all of the finances in your relationship, could be if you're a man and your wife is doing it, if you're a woman and your husband's doing it, if you're in a same-sex marriage and the partner's doing it, doesn't matter. When you're dividing the responsibility, if you have no clue what's going on with your finances, you should expect a very rude awakening. And that's not a judgment on anybody's partner or anybody's life or choices. It's statistically proven. I really want to find it. It's like 70% of the time, particularly women. They outsource it and something happens and they're like, "Oh my god, I had no idea we were this broke. I had no idea this much money was going to this. I had no idea this was happening." And I'm not saying that you have to be rigorous in the day to day, but there should be some knowledge of we're going to bring an expert in for this actually. Where is the money? How much money is there? How do I access it if I need to? Who has access to it if something happens? How does it get paid? When does it get paid? And what's the strategy? Right? Those are 7 things that you should be aware of at least half of them. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. And oftentimes I feel like I'm the outsider. I have always controlled the finances. I was in charge of them in my first marriage. I'm kind of in charge of them in the second, although we're really working on building a good like financial team approach.
Mhm.
It's not my husband's strong suit, but I'm always like, I want you to understand why we're making this choice and what this is doing and that sort of thing, because I think it's important that each of you understand what the other person is thinking about what are we doing with money.
Right. Well, there's the basic strategy. How do we view it? How do we I mean, this is part of pre-Caner and also any kind of couples counseling before you get married. What kind of value do you place on it? Why do you think money exists? What do you think you can do with all of that? And being aligned on that. And even if you're not aligned on that, that's okay. Maybe you're not. There has to be full transparency. There has to be. We've talked about this before quite a bit,
Yes.
quite a bit.
Yes.
And if you don't want to deal with it because you're like, well, I don't want to deal with it. I have other priorities. Okay, that's your choice. And it's not a good one.
Right. No, it's not. And you can really become trapped. You can really become a victim in that situation. I have a couple of friends that found themselves in very unhappy marriages and just had no sense of money, had no sense of where it was or how much was coming in or how much was going out, and just so much that they just didn't know about. And it really made them a victim, or it's almost like a damsel in distress sort of thing, right? Like, "Oh, no, I know you're good at this. You can take care of that." But if you keep doing that, you show that you don't have the wherewithal to do any of those things, or why are you not considering that you should be doing them as a team? And that's just my opinion. Obviously, different marriages work different ways.
Well, it's my opinion too, so it must be right.
Yes.
It must be the only
Yeah.
way.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, so there's finances. Where else do you think at home? Like you had mentioned earlier before when we were talking about kids. So how do you think women give away their power with their kids?
So I think a lot of parents do this, and I'm not saying I've never done it, but tried really hard not to do it, is giving in, right? Is letting them call your bluff, right? Well, if you don't do X, Y, and
Mhm.
Z, you're grounded for 17 years or
Right.
whatever we say as parents. But like, not never, I almost never would threaten a punishment that I wouldn't follow up on.
Mhm. Totally.
I think that's important because after a while you get known as, "Oh yeah, she's a pushover. She'll get over it. She grounded me. It'll be over in an hour." That sort of thing. And they start to disrespect you,
Mhm.
right? They don't take you seriously.
Right, and it might be easier in the moment, right? You don't wanna deal with it or enforcing the boundary or the punishment or whatever. It's gonna be not fun for anybody,
Yeah.
but then you're just telling them that, "Yeah, whatever, do whatever you want. I'm not gonna enforce it." So, yeah, it's tough. I also think that as mothers, a lot of women or as home care, the people that take care of the home, the a lot of times I think people feel it's mutually exclusive. Like, I can't do all this and do this.
Right.
And I'm not saying that that's the expectation. I'm saying that if your job or your role in the family is to run the home and you don't have time, let's go back to finances to deal with the finances, totally understandable. 30 minutes a month, an hour every 3 months. Let's go through our bank statements and talk about kind of what's going on with our money.
Right.
Or I want to go to Croatia. How are we going to fund that? What do we need to do? It's I think it's probably the number one way a lot of women at home give away their power. I mean, I don't have the research to back that up, but I think that's probably it.
Yeah. I agree.
What about before we wrap, what about with friends? Cuz I see this a lot too.
Yes.
Do you want me to just jump in?
Yes. You jump in. I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay. So it's with each other. What do we stand up for? Where do we hold back? Like, there's sometimes it's just not worth it if there's a friend that's disagreeing with you or a friend that's imposing their will on you. Just not worth it to draw a line in the sand. And also, what are you tolerating? Because those tolerations, and we talk about that in a previous episode, those tolerations are going to come back and become explosions. So, so for me, it could be something, and again, it's boundaries, right? It could be something as simple as so and so always cancels, right? Let's say I make plans with somebody and they always cancel. For me, that's giving away my power because that's my time. And time is very, very important to me. That's my time and that's my energy and that's not being valued. So I would probably say something like, the last few times we've made plans, you haven't been able to make it. I'm going to ask that you hold off on committing to this until you know you can make it. And if it continues, I'm going to not be able to continue to make plans with you. Right. I mean,
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, because otherwise, I think for women, the main thing they think is, ugh, I don't want to seem like a bitch. Right. But
mhm.
yet, if you look at situations like you just said, isn't it kind of like a passive aggressive way of being a little bratty or bitchy? Because you're like, no, I'm gonna, it's my way. And oh, I have to cancel at the last minute. And I don't know. I just think with women, myself included, sometimes there's all this underneath emotion that goes on, right? Like, oh, they're canceling. They got better plans. They don't want to be. And then it's like, how long do you let that go on in your mind when you say, listen, this bothers me. and we're friends, and I want you to know it's affecting our relationship.
How are those landscapers doing, just so you know?
Just
I mean, just
finishing up,
asking.
just finishing
Finishing
up,
up
man.
again. They'll finish up right before we do.
Of course.
Right after we do. Yeah, it's affecting our friendship. I like that. I like that. It's affecting our friendship because then it's on the other person. Then it's up to the other person. So I'm
Right,
telling you that it's affecting our relationship. It's affecting our marriage. It's affecting our partnership. It's affecting how I feel. And then if the person continues to do it, I mean, this is again boundaries 101,
right,
then it's on them. They know they can't be like, "Oh, well, I had no idea," because you've told them.
right.
Yeah.
Whereas if you continue to concede all the time, people will think it's okay with you unless you speak up.
Very important. We talked about generations, and we talked about this a little bit before we got on the phone there here at Podsters. We watched the women before us consistently, systematically, routinely give away their power. So, how do you undo that 30 years, 40 years of behavior modeling and seeing your parents do it or seeing your mother do it?
Yeah, I think that that's tricky. I mean, first of all, I think you have to acknowledge that that's a thing for you in your life. And then you have to have the confidence to say, I understand that worked then in that situation, doesn't necessarily work now for me in my life and lifestyle. And then like I know for me, it's about being aware in the moment, right? Having some mindfulness of when am I conceding? When
Mhm.
am I giving away my power so I look like someone who's polite and courteous and the perfect hostess and servant? And when is it happening? Because if you don't know when it's happening, you can't change the situation. You can't alter
Mhm.
it.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think I assume podsters that you as you're listening and nodding along are understanding that we're not saying that you can never compromise or acquiesce or whatever the case may be. Of
Of
course,
course.
if it's not a big deal or if it's in the spirit of compromise, of course.
Mhm.
It's the consistent he always does this or she always does that and it's about how you feel. And if you consistently feel like a doormat, or if you consistently feel like your needs aren't being met, or if you consistently feel like you're the only one compromising at work, at home, with your friends, then it's time to take back your power.
I agree. Yeah. If it's starting to feel conditional and you have feelings of resentment or bitterness, you should feel good about it. If you decide to compromise or these other kind of positive forms, really, of maybe compromising on your power, you should be fully aware of it and you should feel good about it. And if it's anything outside of that, you have to ask yourself why you're doing it. And is that really what you want to do?
Yeah. Yep. Totally. Totally. Okay, so I think that the biggest call to action is mindfulness. I mean, we don't have a magic wand. It's why are you doing it? Because this is something that I've had to really think about myself. Is why do I keep doing this? And then when you can figure out that why, that's the holy grail, podsters.
Mhm.
All right, what else you got?
I don't know. I think that's good. Just buzzing along,
Great.
moving through the fall.
Moving through the fall. Moving through the fall. Last
Uh,
call. What?
Sweater weather.
Sweater weather. Sweater weather's coming. Oh, when we both are wearing sweaters on the podcast, we have to do a sweater weather riff. And if you all listening don't know what sweater weather is, boy, are you in for a treat.
That's right.
Speaking of treat, that rhymes with retreat, which my do the thing retreat. Last call happening in a few weeks on Cape Cod, October 13th through 15th. Link is in the bio. 2.5 days. 2.5 days to get quiet, to take back your power, and to do the thing.
Mm,
The link is in the show notes. We'll hop on a call. I want to make sure it's a good fit for you, and we can take it from there.
sounds fabulous. Jump in.
Sounds fab. Sounds fab. All right. Peace out till next time. Eh?
Peace out.
Peace out.